Welcome to the Restricted Handling Podcast. Let's dig in. Here's what's been going on in Russia in the last 24 hours. All right, remember yesterday when we talked about those tense Berlin peace talks? Well, buckle up, because things just got real. The US, Ukraine, and Europe are now saying they've basically sealed 90% of a draft deal. That's right. The same NATO-like security guarantee we mentioned yesterday is moving forward fast. The plan would make Ukraine the most heavily backed non-NATO country on Earth, complete with a legally binding promise that if Russia comes knocking again, the West answers. The framework is wild. A European-led multinational coalition of the willing would help defend Ukraine's skies and borders, while the US leads a ceasefire monitoring system that would work like NATO's Article 5 hotline, just with fewer flags. Ukraine would maintain an 800,000-strong peacetime military. Think of it as Europe's largest and most combat-tested standing army. Trump called into the Berlin dinner again, telling leaders the world is closer than ever to peace, though, in true Trump fashion, he added the warning, this offer won't be on the table forever. Now, if this is déjà vu from yesterday, here's the twist. They still can't agree on territory. Zelensky's drawing the same red line. No land for peace. The Americans are still pushing this economic free zone concept for parts of Donbass. Like, let's make occupied territory a free trade Disneyland and call it progress. But Kyiv isn't buying it. Zelensky said flat out, Ukraine won't recognize Donbass as Russian, de jure, or de facto. And honestly, the numbers back him up. New polling from Kyiv's main research institute shows 3/4 of Ukrainians reject any territorial concessions. The Kremlin, of course, is playing coy. Putin hasn't attended a single session, sending his talking heads to drip out lines like, we're open to serious peace, while still bombing Ukraine's energy grid into oblivion. And here's a new wrinkle. US officials now say Russia might actually accept Ukraine joining the EU, as long as NATO stays off the table. That's a huge shift. Basically, Putin saying, fine, join the dinner party, just don't sit at the head table. Meanwhile, Russia's campaign of peace through blackout is going full throttle. Remember we said yesterday that Moscow was trying to freeze out Ukraine? It's worse now. Odesa, Kherson, Kharkiv, all hammered again with glide bombs and drone swarms. More than 400,000 homes in Odessa went dark this week. Ukrainian officials are warning that Russia's aiming to split the entire national grid, west versus east, so the industrial heartland literally can't plug into the power. It's classic Soviet chess. Divide the grid, divide the country's capacity to fight. But Kyiv didn't just sit there and take it. Over the weekend, Ukraine's special services pulled off what might be one of the most cinematic operations of this whole war. An underwater drone strike on a Russian Kilo-class submarine at the Novorossiysk base. First time in naval history, anyone's pulled that off. That sub carried Kaliber cruise missiles, the ones that have been hitting Ukrainian cities for months, and now it's scrap metal on the Black Sea floor. Talk about flipping the script. And in case Moscow missed the message, Ukraine followed up with drone strikes on a gas processing plant in Astrakhan and a Lukoil oil rig in the Caspian. That's 3 major energy hits in a single week. And yes, Putin noticed. Over in Europe, the financial side of the fight heated up. Brussels just approved a new round of sanctions, the 19th package, for anyone keeping score. And it's going after the money men behind Russia's oil exports. Murtaza Lakhani and Edibar Ayoub, 2 major traders running Moscow's shadow fleet of tankers, are now officially sanctioned. The EU's also blacklisting about 40 of those ships that have been hauling Russian oil under fake identities. It's a huge shot at the underground logistics empire that's been keeping the Kremlin's war chest full. Germany's also doubling down. Chancellor Merz rolled out a 10-point plan to deepen defense ties with Ukraine, including new weapons production ventures and an office in Berlin called Ukraine Freedom House. Not exactly subtle branding there. It's all part of Europe's effort to show it's not just riding shotgun to the US anymore. They're taking the wheel on Ukraine's defense industry. Now, here's where the hybrid war side ramps up. Germany's foreign ministry straight up summoned the Russian ambassador after uncovering fresh GRU cyber attacks. Same culprits as always, the Fancy Bear crew, targeting everything from Germany's air traffic control to election systems. They even ran disinformation campaigns about the chancellor himself. Berlin's now warning of consequences, and this time, they mean it. Meanwhile, across the channel, MI6's new boss, Blaise Metrueli, the Q-turned-C who just took over Britain's spy agency, made her first public remarks. She said Russia's basically made exporting chaos its national sport. Cyber attacks, sabotage, propaganda, the whole gray zone toolkit. Her line, "The front line is everywhere," is already making the rounds in London. You can almost hear John Le Carré nodding somewhere. Speaking of Russian chaos, Putin's central bank just filed a $230 billion lawsuit against Euroclear, Europe's main securities depository, claiming damages over the freezing of Russian sovereign assets. That's Moscow's way of saying, you freeze our money, we'll bury you in paperwork. The timing's no coincidence. EU leaders are meeting this week to finalize plans to use those same frozen assets to fund a €90 billion loan for Ukraine. So yeah, the Kremlin's going full legal warfare now. Lavrov, Russia's longtime spin doctor, is out doing his usual press tour, this time claiming Europe is reviving Nazism. Because apparently when your army's running out of missiles, you reach for the 1940s greatest hits. Inside Russia, the repression train keeps rolling. A Moscow court just labeled Pussy Riot an extremist organization. So now singing anti-Putin lyrics gets you the same label as an ISIS cell. Real stable democracy vibes there. On the front lines, the story's evolving. Ukraine's been clawing back ground near Kupiansk, forcing Russian units to retreat across the Oskil River. Even Russian military bloggers, usually a loyal crowd, are admitting their forces are overstretched. One of them said troops are desperately fighting to hold positions and running low on supplies. Translation: morale's tanking. In Zaporizhia, Ukraine's also advanced south of Stepnohirsk, while Russia's countering with glide bomb strikes on bridges and rail lines to slow Ukrainian logistics. It's not sweeping territorial change, but it's momentum. And in this war, momentum is everything. And while this all plays out, the European theater's getting louder. The EU's pushing sanctions, NATO allies are fortifying the Baltics, and Western intelligence agencies are publicly calling out Russia's covert operations instead of quietly countering them. It's a big shift, and it's sending a message. Europe's done pretending this is someone else's war. Thanks for being a part of the RH community. Subscribe, leave a positive comment or 5-star review, and most importantly, help build our network by sharing this.